the spoken word piece on this album is 19th and Hennepin, where he starts out, it's 19th and Hennepin. All the donuts have names that sound like prostitutes, which I feel like I understand that lyric, but I'm curious as to what were the names of the donuts that sounded like prostitutes.
There was one that was just called coconut cone.
Okay.
There was one that was it was called a raunchy strawberry.
Raunchy
And,
Strawberry. Okay.
mhm.
That
and
does
then
sound
there
like a
was
prostitute's name, yeah.
um, something called a chlamydia cone, and that was an ice cream. That was a donut and ice cream mixture. It was not ordered very much.
No, I wouldn't order chlamydia cone.
I want to look at it, but I don't want to lick it. Ugh.
You're listening to part 2 of a 2-part conversation between Craig Cackowski, a fan of Tom Waits, and Tamara Federici, producer of Every Band Ever, already in progress.
Probably the best known song on the album, it would not be the Tom Waits version. It would be Downtown Train, which was covered by Rod Stewart. Did you also do the Rod Stewart version?
I did.
And what was the difference between working with Tom or working with Rod?
Oh my God. Rod is mostly ladies' legs. He's mostly made up of ladies' legs, I feel like. Like he's, anything he does, an album he makes, there's always a pair of ladies' legs and high heels. And I feel like in his soul parts are just ladies' legs and black high heels. And for me, that's, when we were making that his version of Downtown Train, that's the vibe I get. Is it's he can be singing anything and it's all going to go back to like him with his tie off, sitting down with some legs behind him. That's He just sounds like that to me. Even Downtown Train. So I was thrilled about Tom Waits' version. I feel like that's a really for me personally, that's more my style.
Now, Tom Waits did it first, though, right? Or what's the order of that? Because I feel like I knew this might have been that I discovered Rain Dogs after the Rod Stewart version had come out, and then I was so surprised to hear it in Tom Waits' voice because it's so different, but clearly the same song.
I think it's the way that you're saying, but I change, I mix up my timelines a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was the other way. But I do think I think Rod Stewart originated it, and then it was Tom Waits. But it kind of doesn't make a difference to me.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
right.
And there's one other rock icon who I'm curious about who does appear on Rain Dogs as well, which is like he plays guitar and sings backup on a couple songs. Keith Richards.
I know. I couldn't believe that. I mean, like, I made a call, but I didn't think he was actually going to come. I mean, that's so.
Because you knew him from producing Stones albums.
Right. Yeah. And I just thought they might get along because they have some sort of like. Tom Waits is so. Let me talk to the stapler. Let's see. He's kind of just in his own place about. I will be anointed with this song at the right moment. So why don't we go ahead and have rehearsal and I'll be crap, but then sometime halfway through, it's really going to kick in and it'll be amazing. And even if we stop the lyrics halfway through, that's going to be great. And so Keith Richards sort of musically is a little bit like, not jingly jangly, but you can see him being a little like fluid, like a fluid thinker, I guess. So yeah, that was really fun. I can talk a little bit about that. Was they just like, like those maracas that they have in like kids, like kindergartens or something. They actually didn't say it. They never said hello.
Children's maracas. They're smaller. They're smaller than full size maracas.
A little higher, maybe too.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller beans inside, but
what kind of beans?
I think those are little pintos, baby pintos.
Little pintos.
But
okay.
I'm only doing it by ear. I haven't seen it by sight because they hide them in there.
I would be worried that if Tom Waits had a maraca, he'd want to crack it open to get to the beans.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it didn't happen, that he didn't think of it in that moment, and they they didn't say hello. They said hello through the maracas, and they were shaking them in the offbeats, like da 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 da, and then they just shook them back and forth at each other for a long time. we took a break. We went out to have dinner. We came back and they were still shaking them at each other. And then they finally said, "Oh, hello." And then they started working together. So that was
So
pretty magical until,
so Tom and Keith just communicated via maracas for hours at a time.
they're more physical collaborators than wordsmiths, I think. Well, I mean, not wordsmiths, than intellectual verbal people only.
So there's 19 tracks on the album. Was there stuff that you cut as well?
He wanted to put a jingle on the album, which was weird in the middle of all of these songs. He
Like a
wrote,
commercial jingle?
yeah,
For what?
yeah. I think it was for Belks.
Which is a defunct department store. It would have been active at the time, right?
Right, right. Yeah, it was a jingle for Belks, and it was sort of like, what do you? This doesn't match. This doesn't match anything that we have. Secondly, it's a commercial that nobody asked you to write. And I mean, he could probably fill another album with jingles nobody asked him to write.
Was
So
he hoping to get a deal with Belks?
I'm not sure what he was going for. I think he just artistically was inspired by Belks, which nobody has been. He might be the only person inspired by Belks, but he kind of weirded out himself a little bit. It was, it was like, why are they shopping in there? It might have been something like
So
that.
it was similar to What's He Building in There?
Right, which he had already, right. He had that already in his pocket. And he was like, why are they shopping in there? I mean, he
But
didn't
I
say
feel like
whisper.
that's not a great endorsement for Belks of why are they shopping in there?
It's more of an indictment.
Yeah.
Maybe he's curious. He's a lurker. It's a lurking song.
So that's always got to be a difficult conversation then as a producer when an artist wants a track on the album and you know it's not right and you have to talk them out of it. What's your methodology for approaching that conversation, or does it differ according to the artist?
It differs according to the artist. And for Tom Waits, what that means is when you are asking to take something out of an album, it means you're going to go to the top of a cliff. You're going to have a totem. You're going to toss it over that cliff, and you're going to say goodbye to it together as he slowly plays the accordion.
Okay, so as long as there's a ceremonial disposing of the track, that he's
Right.
cool with it.
Right. One time we tied a cassette to a pigeon and just let it fly away.
Wow.
And that's how we get stuff to, that's how we choose what the final tracks are. Some things have to go.
Awesome. Well, how was Tom satisfied with the final version of the album?
He really liked it, but he doesn't show his appreciation outright. You find a flower on your doorstep for like 12 days, and then you know that you did a good job. But let
Awesome.
me let me ask you something. What I don't know what when you were the age that you were when you were listening to this album, what drew you in about this? What was the most exciting part of hearing this?
I mean, it's partially the uniqueness of his voice, like that gravelly voice. Like I think is an instant turnoff for so many people. Like you
Really?
hear 10 seconds of Tom Waits, and a lot of people are going to be out already. But I was kind of drawn in. The first track I remember hearing by him, well, MTV used to play the video for In the Neighborhood, which was like really weird and black and white, and like it didn't feel like a real song. Like, and so I was kind of put off by it. And then I was in college and I remember hearing uh I think it's called I'll Be Gone, which is a song from Frank's Wild Years. And in the morning I'll be gone. And I thought it sounded so cool and weird, and as if it was from another era entirely. So I started to become a fan, like based on that. And then, so I think Frank's Wild Years was the first one I got, then Swordfish Trombones, then eventually Rain Dogs. And I've stayed pretty on top of his stuff since then. And then going all the way back to the beginning, he was more of like a singer songwriter type. Like his voice was a little smoother on the first album. It was still kind of weird, but like he was more in a tradition of like LA singer
Yeah,
songwriters in the
lounge.
early 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. More of a lounge singer. Yeah.
Than a drunk uncle and wandering through the woods. With a piano, though.
I do think that like the best artists are able to like distill their influences in interesting ways. Like the Beatles and Nirvana are probably my two favorite bands, but also
Mhm.
like they're the most derivative bands in some ways. They just took some from so many influences and mashed it together in a new way. And later, after being a Tom Waits fans, I listened to some Howlin' Wolf and to some Captain Beefheart, and I'm like, oh, he got quite a
Yeah,
bit from Howlin' Wolf and Captain Beefheart.
totally. Right. Yeah.
But he's also uniquely himself. I'm not saying he's a ripoff. I'm just saying I can hear the influences in how he turned it into a new thing.
Yeah, he was totally influenced by Captain Beefheart for sure. Yeah. I think I tried to get into Captain Beefheart, and he's sort of, um,
He's even
I don't
harder than Tom Waits.
he is much, but I kept trying. Like I mean, I definitely, we did some stuff together, but it was sort of, I really wanted to be that cool, and I couldn't get there quite. So, you know.
That's got to be an awkward conversation. As the go-to producer for everyone, there must be artists who want to work with you, and then of like, I'm not really into what you do, man, but like, let's work together.
Right. I'll find the place. Like unless they are unless something has been violated, I'll work with them. In other words, like Imitator's Jugtown Band, I won't work with animals, and I won't work with awful animals who are mean to people. And I learned my lesson, and I'm not doing that. So
Oh, so you're thinking of the River Bottom Nightmare Band specifically?
yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Because
Because Emmett and his
right,
band are
you're
pretty
right.
sweet, and they just play jugs. But I think the River Bottom Nightmare Band is particularly, uh,
They're
it's
egregious.
the meanest animals in the swamp.
Indeed. I mean, and they're also a Christmas band, and if you only play once a year, I feel like that's weird, and I should have seen that coming. And also a snake in a band is that's not good. That's not good.
Right, because you're going to have a bowl of water for the snake to to swim in,
It's a lot.
for so there's a lot in the writer when you take that show on the road.
It's
I guess
just
that
too
checks
much.
like all of your negatives, right? Animals, meanness, and Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they played other times during the year, and then additionally at Christmas, but also they're jerks, they're unprofessional, they're mean to Emmett Oller. I'm like, no, no. So I will not work with them again. Like, so those things you have to set a precedent for me to be like, no, no more.
Yeah,
But
I think boundaries are important.
yeah, rock has a hard time with boundaries, I feel like. Greg, Greg, because you have such a great voice, and I'm wondering if you could sing. I just think that it's so unexpected that it might just work. So this is Tom Waits with his song "Time" from Rain Dogs with Lizzo.
And it's time, time, time. And it's time, time, time. And it's time, time, time that you love. And it's time, time, time. Turn up the music. Turn down the lights. I got a feeling gonna be alright. It's about damn time. Time, time.
Go to every band ever on Instagram for updates or to suggest a band. Craig Cackowski is an actor and improviser based in Los Angeles. People usually recognize him from Drunk History, Community, Veep, or dozens of projects he was not in. And Tamara Federici gave up on the pumpkin outfit and is going as a duck. The editor is Will Velasquez. The audio engineer is Clark Jackson. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Shake your leaves, shake your leaves. Oak tree, oak tree, oak tree, oak tree. Everybody